Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Mastering the Art of Strategic Planning. I am your host, and I'm Bill Whitehead. Somebody said, "You're the host, they know I work on it." So I am the dress today, so I have legs for those who got them in legs. Welcome to Mastering the Art of Strategic Planning. I am Sierra Hall, the team lead, and the support team. It works. That would help. There we go. So this I'm going to call us back for today. Of course, we are all team lead. With me, I have got Devetta Bradley up in the red. Then I have Pat Sigatelli up here in the white, and Sarah Fisher back there in the corner. Daniel Bailey is on maternity leave. He had a son on Thursday. He's been shooting his baby pictures, and somebody has that going. I'm sure we'll get some other time pretty soon. So excited for him for his first day. But today we're going to talk about the Mastering the Art of Strategic Planning. We'll kind of piggyback off what all of our sessions actually going to piggyback off what Henry talked about this morning. But I'm going to start connecting the dots, and we'll talk about strategic planning, maybe a little strategic reflection, and then talk about the future. So let's talk about connecting those dots. So I want you to think the district as a house. The district strategic plan, and I'm going to call it a DSSR. Okay? DSSR moving forward will come out on out. So the district does the district strategic plan, schools do the school renewal plan. All together, it's the DSSR. The district runs the show. Say that again. The district runs the show. That's the reason why they're in a group. Because the district's plan helps guide everybody else. All the other systems report to the district. So your title plans, the schools, any waivers. Think about purchasing, think about human resources, transportation, even though they're not up here, they all report back to the system. The district office protects the system, the system supports the goals and functions of the district office. So let me get a little clarity here. So what does ESSA say? ESSA says that we have to involve parents in an organized, ongoing, and timely way in the planning and improvement of programs, and we're supposed to improve the parent and family communication policy and joint development of the school-wide program plan. All right, so it says that we're looking for evidence of a plan-review process with families and parents playing an active participant role. Notice that it says families and parents. It doesn't define which families. State law says that the local board of trustees will establish a school improvement council at each one of the schools. The school improvement council has to have 2 parents, 2 teachers, 2 students if it's a high school, and at least a representative from the community. It shall assist in the preparation of the school's strategic renewal plan, and it shall provide advice on the use of school grants. Notice again, it says parents. Parents, parents. So if you are doing 2 separate meetings right now, you need to stop it. Stop it right now. Stop doing it. This will make more sense in a minute. But please stop doing it. Let your folks do it all together. Because guys, I used to be on the monitoring team. There are 3 things that a monitoring team is looking for to see that you have a meeting, an agenda, meeting minutes, and a sign-in sheet. And a sign-in sheet has been accepted on that before. This way. All right, so let's push past compliance a little bit. When you align everything together, you put your titles, your state funding, your local funding, you put all of that together in one pot, in one picture. Instead of these separate silos, separate puzzle pieces, you get one beautiful picture. So that comprehensive needs assessment. Folks, that can be used in multiple places. Right? Okay, so if you're writing a comprehensive needs assessment over here for me on the state side of the house, and I've seen it, some of y'all are writing something entirely different on the federal side of the house. And if you're doing that, you need to stop it. I am giving you permission not to do something. Quit working so hard, okay? Comprehensive needs assessment and comprehensive needs assessment, right? You looked at your district, you found all these things that we need to work on, you figured out the root causes. If you did that over here on the state side of the house, it should be the exact same thing on the federal side of the house. Again, look at your funding sources. In that state plan that we asked you guys to turn in April 30th, it has a funding source column. And you know what you guys put on it? No,
NA.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing because that's exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah, okay, okay. Y'all put NA. Y'all put NA and TDD all the way down that funding source column. It's there for a reason. It's not because we ran out of space and we needed something else. We actually want you to put a funding source there. So on that strategic plan, when it says funding source, Title 1. Okay, $2 grand, fantastic. Well, outside of the state of the house, I don't care what number you put in there, as long as you make it work on your federal side. But if you go ahead and do it now on the strategic planning side, it should be a copy and paste job in another month or so when you got to do it on the federal. Did you?
It is.
That went
That
fast.
was quick.
That was quick.
I have to put you back up here on the stage and all that.
I hate how working with that.
Oh, I'm sure.
All right, so strategic planning. Some of the common challenges that we've seen and heard are procrastination. I know some of our principals that like to procrastinate. My daughter drives me crazy. She's one of those procrastination, but good planning takes time. You can't wait till April 1st to start planning that's due April 30th. Insufficient tools. One of the big ones, asking the wrong questions. So are you asking the tough, deep questions to figure out what the root cause is? Because if you haven't figured out what the root cause of the problem is, you're just going to be throwing the same strategies at it that maybe haven't been working year after year. Jumping to solutions. A lot of times leaders are wanting to be solution seekers instead of trying to dig into the problem, figure out why the problem is occurring, and then looking into a solution instead of immediately just trying to solve the problem. And then the big one, ineffective implementation and monitoring. So we may set all these things up, but we're not following back to say, are we really implementing them with fidelity? Are we monitoring them for success? So the first part of a DSSR is your comprehensive needs assessment executive summary. CR mentioned that earlier. So you take the time and you have a really comprehensive needs assessment executive summary. Those should be used across the board for all areas. So first part for a needs assessment is having an inclusive team approach. She mentioned that earlier. It shouldn't just be the same people that you always have on your team. You're looking at parents, depending on your grade span, students included in that team, teachers, administrators. You're looking at a wide range of people to join that team because everybody brings different ideas and viewpoints. And then you're going to be looking at the primary needs, but most importantly, you're going to be looking at those root causes. If you have dug down and asked the deep and tough questions to find those root causes, when you get down to the section where you're writing goals, it's going to be a lot easier for you to write the goals and the action steps because you really know where the problem is arising. And then after your needs assessment, when you move into your executive summary, your needs assessment, you looked at all sorts of data. You want to look at the whole child, not just your academic assessments, but you want to look at attendance, you want to look at discipline, you want to look at all the pieces of data that you know you're already looking at anyway. That tells the whole picture. But when you're going to your executive summary, after looking at all of those pieces of data, you're going to prioritize the need so that then you can assign a goal and action steps. And then you're also going to look at what do you want the desired performance to be versus the current level of performance that you're seeing, and that's where you pull that from your comprehensive needs assessment. All right, so failure to create a strategic goal. We see lots of different goals, but we're going to look at, and this is where I'm going to ask for some participation here. But looking at this goal, why is this not a strategic goal? So by 25-26, 60% of 3rd through 8th graders will score meets or exceeds on the ELA and math benchmark assessments as measured by spring math scores. Why is that not a strategic goal?
Because it encompasses third through eighth grade and not a specific group.
Okay, so it encompasses third through eighth grade. That's a huge group of students, right? We're also looking at ELA and math. So lots of different, so it's too large. All right, let's look at this goal. Reduce class size for 4th and 5th grade to 18 to 1 by 25-26. Why is this not a strategic goal?
Because it doesn't show where you start.
Okay, so we don't know where we're starting.
We also don't know what the outcome or purpose of the goal is.
Okay, how many of you are familiar with Academy's effect sizes? A lot of you. The effect size for reduced class size. Let me ask you this question. Think of your child. If you don't have a child, a niece, nephew. Would you rather have your child in a class with a highly effective teacher that has 30 students in it? Or would you rather have your child in a class that has 18 students and maybe the teacher's not quite as effective? Which would you prefer? Highly effective teacher. So the effect size for reduced class size is not as high as a highly effective teacher. Okay? By 27, 100% of the faculty staff will receive appropriate school-wide and area-specific professional development. So many things with this one, right? There's so many issues with this one. What kind of professional development? 100% of staff. You're always going to have that one staff that calls in sick, right? It happens. So what's the area to grow if you're at 100%? Last one on here, by June of 27, this is my favorite, by the way. School report card surveys will show parents satisfied with the learning environment will increase 1 percentage point each academic year from 95.9% to 99.9%. What's wrong with this goal?
It's a lot.
I mean, 95.9% is already pretty high, right? Is there area to grow in that that's going to be impactful for students?
Not really.
Now, let me ask you this. This is the more important piece of it. How many of you have had that one parent that it doesn't matter what you do, they're going to rate you at the bottom on every area of the school report card? So we're writing a goal that doesn't matter what we do, we're never going to reach it because of that one parent, right? Okay. All right. So, I mean, I got a huge part of things.
I like this one better.
I know. So, we want to offer you a different way of thinking about things. We see in pretty much, I'll say 99% of our DSSR plans, this current practice. We've got grades 3 through 5 with their projections on estimating and then their actual data. That's what we see most often. When you're in a building, are you looking at the span of grades 3 through 5 when you're looking at the data? Or are you looking at it more of by grade level? Now, I see a lot of faces that just went, I put on here, we have the cohort, this is their graduation year. How many of you in here are elementary people by nature? Okay. They were all secondary people by nature. My brain is not thinking grad year. Okay? Theirs did. So, I put up here current first grade, current second grade, because I knew if I were looking at this plan, I'd pull it up and go, what grade was that again when they took it 2 years ago? So this just helps me track it. But when you're looking at data day to day, I know your principals are doing this as well. They're looking at that cohort that comes along. And I can say in all my time in elementary school setting, there's always that one grade level that you're like, what was in that water? Because for whatever reason, they're not tracking along with everybody else. When you look at your data in this way, you can target interventions specific to grade levels. Whereas one cohort might need a different set of intervention. Maybe they're not responding to the same way of the interventions that you might just give out in general. For our secondary-minded people, here's what it currently looks like with your grad rate. Here's what it could look like in a cohort model. So your freshmen that are coming in, 100% of your freshmen should be on track to graduate, right? They've not gotten the credit or not gotten the credit so far. So everybody coming in the door should be at 100%. You're going to target interventions, maybe not as many things for your freshmen as you would your sophomores and juniors that you're really trying to push along. And then hopefully by the time you get to the senior group, they're coasting a little bit. You just got to give them a little extra nudge. But you're able to track it when you track cohorts to be much more specific than you just a grad rate in general.
Okay, can we go back?
I was just about to say, let me pause there.
Question, Eleanor.
Eleanor.
And I know we had this conversation last year, you suggested this, and we went back, and my mind was just like, oh, primary school. Your primary school has K through 2. My mind is saying, okay, I've got to have a number in every, I've got to have a baseline, then I've got to have a part, and I've got to have an actual. You see what I'm saying? And with a K through 2 school, I don't know. Man, I need to go home.
It's too early for that.
We just could, and I may be able to speak, we just tried to see how to do that with the kids at the primary school, then they go to the elementary school, then they go to the middle school, then they go to the high school, and how do we keep up with all of these cohorts when they're not in, like, I mean, I would assume it would be easier to do if you're not K through 5, and then the middle and whatnot.
District assessment and non-bullying person.
I'm trying to figure out how, because I'm the one who does this.
And the district office is going to look different than the schools.
Okay, so is this a school example or is this the district example? Because I've got 6 schools feeding into this sheet. Then.
I would say this is a school example.
Okay.
District, you're going to have to do the larger bands of 3 through 5 because you're the district. You're the house.
As I read that first goal and I was like, I gotta redo my whole thing.
No, you know, the district is going to be large because you're covering the whole system.
Okay.
But yeah.
You just get used to doing it.
Correct.
This way.
For
It
you.
might be a conversation that we have after.
I've thought about it for a year. I've thought about it since we talked about it. And, but it just.
And Sarah, turn it back one. Here's the thing. District, you're going to have to do it live. Okay? However, your schools are spending an hour, and I can speak to this so much because I've done it personally, to make the data look this way when I'm getting it the other way.
Schools are using the data already in this way. They're looking at it. I know I was looking at my first grade scores, and then I would look at them when they got to second grade. And then I would look at them, they're already looking at it that way. Yeah. Most of their programs that you use, whether it be IRA or MAP, are printed out for you that way.
And I know that it's just
Yeah.
where it looks nice.
I get it.
I'm sorry, but
And
I
Sarah,
thought about it for you.
and Sarah made a good point to me. We were having a discussion, I think this past summer, and she was advocating for, you know, I'm a middle school junkie. So when I see the scores, I'm looking at 3 through 5, 6 through 8, 9 through 12. And she made a good point when we break it out like this, especially for our K2s.
Yeah.
She said, you made a point that hit me, which was intervention really starts down here, not at grade 3. You know, do we look at our funding a little bit differently? Do we push it down
further down into K2, where we're getting more bang for our buck versus 3 through 5.
Because
And
really,
that just made me stand on my head a little bit. I'm like,
your
I know she
intervention
wasn't.
is going to be heavy in the K through 2 area. Because by the time you get to 3 through 5, you're still going to have some kids that need intervention, but you really shouldn't be having a ton of tier 3 intervention in your 3, 4, 5 because you have hit them heavy in K through 2. So,
I think so.
no,
Because,
but I will agree with you. Primary is just a beast in itself because of the assessments that primary is able to do isn't quite the same as your upper elementary. I agree.
yeah. And I know that when we look at things, and I agree, when we look at things, we look at,
Right.
it's just trying to figure out,
Trying to make it work.
trying to word it on here.
But you know what? I'm proud of you because at least I got you to turn your head. If we can walk out of this room today and I've made you all go, I've never thought of it that way.
But then all of the other stuff, and I think what happens is that, and probably in other places, I'm gonna admit it, and in other places, I don't know if y'all telling the truth, but I'm the one who ends up doing all of this. It's not just for,
Hey, I appreciate the honesty.
it doesn't end up being a team
I know.
effort. And so, or maybe 2 people, but, you know.
We know where it's being done by the schools and where it's not being done.
And now I'm having to make them all take their plans and cut and paste over into that other. So, anyway, yeah.
All right. So I kind of already talked about this earlier, but a good comprehensive needs assessment can be used or should be used for all of your other title plans because you're not just looking at your academics, you're looking at your students in poverty, you're looking at your attendance, you're looking at your ML students. All of this is looking at your school as a whole when you're looking at all of the pieces for a needs assessment. That allows you then to be able to write detailed action steps for when you get down to that section and connecting it to the funding source. Like Sierra said, we don't need specific amounts in the DSSR. You're going to need that when you go put it in your title plans. You know about a ballpark of what it's going to be, and that's what we're asking for. Okay, so now we've got an activity for you. So we have some goals right for you. You know it's sobering on the other goals section, and I know y'all are going to do fabulous on this as well. But you're going to talk and collaborate with those around you. So if you're at a table by yourself, if you'll flip around to somebody behind you and collaborate with those around you. And what I want you to look at in your your goals is first question, is this a good goal or not? Why or why not? And then if you had a goal like that, what would be some potential root causes for your data to be where it's at? And then what could you possibly do? So we're going to do about 10 minutes. And I don't know if there's sound attached to this or not. But I will say if there is sound, our video up there often gets people like, what's going on? Because it has kids laughing in it. So just to let you know, when you hear kids laughing, like, I did it the first time we presented it and used it as well. So if you hear that. But I will let you know about the 10-minute mark to wrap it up.
I'm gonna pause it. It's only 5 minutes.
Okay. It's 11:30.
Even though I know that's not really, I haven't noticed that. I will. I just need to go home. Yeah, I'll get back my hotel, get my bed. Yeah, I mean,
Alright, just for the sake of time, and you notice that we had some goals for each of the required areas of the ESSR, just to give you some ideas. But just for the sake of time, we're going to look at this first one. By May of 27, increase grade 3 ELA proficiency from 38% to 48% state assessment with quarterly interim checks using district benchmarks. Good or not so good?
Good.
Good. What made it good? Specific? Measurable?
Attainable.
Attainable?
We felt like the increase was lofty.
Yes.
Okay.
We weren't sure it was attainable.
Okay. One way I like to, and I pulled this from my friend Yvette over there, who, when you look at the goals and you're not really sure, because I feel like a lot of times we're just picking percentages out of the air, you're not really sure what to pick or select, calculate it out to see how many kids is that actually affecting. And I don't remember what district it was, but she calculated it out, and their percentage that they had was actually like 2 kids. You're telling me by the end of the school year, you're only working to move 2 kids. Makes you think about the goal a little bit differently. When you calculate it out and say, how many kids does that actually mean? So depending on the size of the school, now with 3rd graders, it really could be lofty or not so much. So I recommend looking at it that way. I want to point out a piece of this that we've not mentioned yet. As you see, we're looking at the state assessment. But after that, it says with quarterly interim checks from using district benchmarks.
Who made the benchmark?
Yeah, I can tell you when we wrote this, what's intended there is your iReady, your map data, or it could be, depending on district. We know some districts have some very high quality CFAs. It could be that. So it really just depends on district. But I want you to be thinking about what data do you use to drive your decisions every single day, day in and day out in your building. Are you using ESSA data to do that? No, because although it is summative assessment, it gives all right data to tell you how many's on your grade level. You're not using that data in and out to guide what you're doing. So think about the assessments that you're using to guide what you're doing day in and day out. We want to see those assessments. There is nothing saying that you have to use SC Ready data.
It is not in law and it is not in regulation.
But the majority of what we see is SC Ready data. By the time SC Ready data comes out, that is the autopsy data. That child has moved on. There's nothing else you can do.
Well, that was one thing that we talked about too, is that if we're looking by the end of May 2027, these kids this year, or if you're looking at those kids, they're in first grade. And so we're looking at early interventions and what kind of things you need to do now to make sure that when they take SC Ready in May of 2027, they're going to be able to get that.
And see, I have a question with where it said quarterly interim checks. That's kind of really, you're only going to check. You're not able to check quarterly because in quarter one you're getting your baseline data of where they are right now. Quarter 2 and 3 you can check it there, but by the time quarter 4's come, they've already taken SC Ready and it's going to already be done. So really, you're only getting two interim checks. So I didn't know if a monthly benchmark or something like whether it's another measurable.
And I want you to open your mind too to this one. When we go back to that chart we had up on the wall up here a little bit ago, think about the vertical alignment that needs to take place. Are your fifth grade principals shifting that data to sixth grade? Why does sixth grade need to start all over and get new baseline data? We know what it is when they came out of fifth grade. Same thing for eighth grade going to ninth grade. Does that principal have that conversation with high school? So my question, and I think, I don't know which Lawrence it was, one of our lines we went to. They, third grade, all met except two kids. Two kids, there we are, two kids. And I asked the principal point blank, you know which ones they are? By the answer they just said, and that's it. As third grade told fourth grade? Yep. So now we know what we need to do. Chuck along with the other that are doing what we need to do, there's two over here that aren't there yet.
And we're starting into that transition this year. We started pushing that harder and that the data to follow them a little more clearly.
And that's what that cohort model leads you to, is having that better conversation instead of a large group. All right, my sixth and eighth graders coming out, they're coming ninth graders. Now we've got to do something different.
So I just want to make sure that I'm clear, because I don't think that I would be getting into that specific level at the district level.
Correct.
Right? And even in the school plan, it's not going to be quite that specific, but what I require from the district that they do on a weekly basis in their ILT gets to that level. So we're talking best practice, not necessarily what's going in this document.
Correct.
Okay.
But we also want best practice in this document.
Well, I lost my school, so I think we're doing it.
Yeah.
All right.
Good morning. My name is Pat Sickenthaler. I'm a member of this team as well. And my agenda, my part of the presentation today is about going forward in the future, if you will. So talking about a vision, I'm sure you guys have seen this now. This is the strategic plan that the Department has done, the Department of Education. The vision is huge. I think what I took away this morning from the format, Dr. Hembry, was that vision that they have together. Some of you are in the March Madness right now, right? Basketball's going on. I'll share a real quick story. So I did everything from classroom teacher to superintendent. But at one point in my career, I was a coach. I was an assistant coach at the University of Akron for basketball. And we go there. That's right. How do you know that? Anyway, so the team was 5 and 24 the year before the coach that I was with got there. They were terrible. They had 4 senior starters and the thing for that. And so bottom line is that we improved over the first year, like a little over 500. Second year we went to the NCAA tournament. First time in school history. Very exciting. We're playing Michigan. They're ranked 3rd in the country. Because Akron was not very good. So we were playing, of course, a very highly ranked school. They literally had McDonald's All-Americans as substitutes. You know, our players couldn't even come close to that. The Vegas line was 31 points. We were supposed to get killed. And where I'm going with this again is vision. I remember as an assistant coach, he was, of course, privately thinking, well, this will be a fun experience. we get to go to Minneapolis and play back in front of a lot of people. You know, we get to be in the tournament for some time in school, maybe we'll take our Wilton and we'll come back. You know, it is what it is. And our coach really, unbeknownst even to the staff, and we knew that there was going to be some prep work as far as psychologically. But we went in the locker room before our practice on Monday. We had a gathering party on Sunday, the whole deal. And so Monday we go in the locker room, and he laid out a vision, an expectation that we're going to beat them. That by the time he was done, we believed, we really, really did it. Follow my fast forward real quick. We were down 4 points with about 2 minutes to go. Had to start down and maybe go too long. But it was a heck of a game. And it was a turning point for me because watching someone develop a vision, an all-in vision, he left no room for error and expectation. And I think you'll see that in the format. I've lived that in 2 districts I worked in. I spent most of my career in 2 districts. And if you set that vision, establish an expectation, you can get it there. One of the ways, of course, is academic efficacy that you talked about this morning as well. So one of the things that we're going to ask you to do, we've got some examples for you, is really be targeted and laser focused on your return on investment. Dr. Henry talked this morning too about their money. She showed real quickly some of the places their money has gone. But she summarized it by saying we spent less on programs, more on personnel. I could not agree more. Having been a superintendent, if you've got good people, and you can add more good people to what you're doing, it'll make a huge difference over the programs. Sarah talked about having a classroom with your own personal child, being in a room with 28 kids, but a good teacher. One of the things, I can't remember who said it now, but the basic line was that the success or the outcomes for our students will never exceed the ability of our teachers. Right? If you don't have great teachers, nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. And if you don't have the personnel to help those teachers be better teachers, then this plan won't make a difference. So there are a couple things I heard again this morning. PLCs. How many of you are working in a PLC district? If you work in a PLC district that's truly a PLC, your scores will go up. They'll go up significantly. I work again. When I made a change from one district to another, the only way I was going to make that move is if the district I was going to would be a PLC, or I went to be the superintendent, because that's just how you do it. So as one example, a district spends $500,000 on a reading program, but the achievements never changed. So what's the return on it? So for example, we did PLC. If you use a PLC, you're actually doing action research as you go along. You're using data to understand how things work. A little quick story. So we had coaches, and I'm going back 20 years now. There was a lot of research or data on athletic coaching. And we had coaches going in, and we did the general program back then. I do, coach. We do, coach and teacher. You do, right? Over the course of a lesson, maybe two, kind of this is what good teaching can look like. And there were some nuggets in there and some good things. Here's what we found out. When we went back and interviewed our teachers and our coaches and did some observations, most of the teachers under that model didn't look different. If we went back 3 weeks after the 1 or 2 day I do, we do, you do, it really didn't change pedagogically or how they taught. So we said, well, what would happen if we did a deeper dive and went for 2 weeks? So next year we did. Now that limits the amount of time coaches can get, or amount of teachers they can get to. What we found out, we were a little bit better. We had more teachers. Bottom line is, over the course of 3 or 4 years, iterations 3 and 4, we spent 8 weeks in a classroom. Guess what happened? About 90% of our teachers were different. There was still some that still weren't where they needed to be. But the vast majority. Would you rather be in the classroom for 2 days and affect nobody, or take 8? No, we didn't give the teachers all, we didn't have to. At the end of 8 weeks, the teachers that we got to were different for life. That's what we found out. Worth the investment. So, looking at those kinds of things, field trips, how is that impacting student outcomes? Because if your vision, if your collective efficacy is that we're going to improve student outcomes, and field trips don't do that, you won't pay much attention to them. You'll get rid of them. Conferences, when coming to a sit and get is good, there's nuggets you can get, what does that, how does that impact student outcomes? And looking at that. If you're not spending a ton of money on it, then maybe it's not going to be that bad. But there are some districts who spend a lot of money. Is that information coming, are you bringing it back and sharing it? We went to, Hampton, thank you. What happened? You've been 44 years in education, your mind's money. We went to Hampton County and they went to a PLC conference out in Arizona. And as part of their administrative meeting that we were going to present at, they were sharing their information. I thought they did a great job of helping the other staff members kind of get a glimpse of what they learned. Not only did they share, there was a process for continuing to use that information going forward. So, as an example, we put up a couple mocks, if you will, of situations where in this elementary school, there's a Title I plan, and there was a need for a part-time academic interventionist at $26,000. Is it in your strategic plan or not? So one of the things they talked about this morning too, again, Dr. Henry, is now one of the advantages of being a very small district is you can be very consolidated in what you do. So some of you have to work a little bit harder at that, but I guess I'll share with you, you have to. I mean, the idea that some of you are putting in all the information, or some of you are going, there's no other evidence to this, right? There's no way. Everybody has to be on board. So if your strategic plan is not aligned to your Title I plan, it's not aligned to your different, right? You've got to have an idea of what your plan is. And then once your plan's set, then you're going to look at what are all the resources that we have that we can use to fund that plan. So if you're not there yet, and again, some districts are more difficult than others, I would say that's certainly one of the first jobs you're going to work on. So an example in the Title I plan, if you spent money on instructional materials and supplies, is it in your strategic plan? Did you look at the return of investment? Is it the best use of funds? So making sure that whatever angle you're looking from in your role, that there is a collaboration. And again, a collective efficacy. If you haven't read Henry's work, I would ask you to do that, even if you skim it. Get the sense of it. Get a sense of, like Sarah talked about again. I can tell you, looking at plans, I've seen plans that have had student-teacher ratios over the course of 2 plans. That's 10 years. And they're continuing to try to increase student achievement by decreasing that ratio. Third one, Saturday school program, talking about some of the expenses. Then, again, is it in your strategic plan? If not, why not? And how can you tie those things together? So there are all kinds of examples of goals that we see that are in isolation, or that are separate, or even the worst case scenario, they really don't impact student outcomes. If you have the vision, going back to my story, right, about basketball, when that vision is so tight and so collective, that you've got a better chance. Anybody ever read the book Annual Growth, Catch-Up Growth? Annual Growth, Catch-Up Growth, write that one down. If you guys do book studies or your administrative team looks at things, it's a story about a district in Washington, state of Washington, that made a decision that they weren't going to accept low-performing outcomes. Because those are kids. Your literacy is 30% of the kids are on target or on grade level or meeting the standards. I think 70% are not. And they said that's not going to happen anymore. They give you the pedagogical strategies they use, which are sound. More important than that book for me was the commitment, the vision, the collective efficacy that they created in order to achieve that. And that's huge. So in the DSSR, she talked about the idea of being diagnostic, surrogate, NCR. The medical example, if you go to the doctor and he takes your temperature and says, I've got the cure for your ills, that's right, how diagnostic is that? If they do PET scans and x-rays and get very diagnostic, they've got a better chance of really pinpointing what your ailment is and making the right program for what your problem is. So 2 things that matter most are instructional quality, what's being taught and how well. You cannot intervene your way out of 4 Tier 1. One of the things, I was a data geek too, even as a superintendent, like Dr. Henry, I was very, very involved. And we looked at things, we looked at teachers and how they perform. Not to isolate them or to in any way embarrass them, but to actually do the opposite, to bring them collectively to help fix what it is that they weren't doing well, so that their students had a better chance. Because what if it was your child that got that teaching grade, right? So we always work hard to make sure that our teachers were the best that they could be. Schools plagued by lots of change, but not much improvement, and teachers have to analyze achievement data, set goals. One of the things that Dr. Henry said this morning as well, too, is that they were very transparent about their data. Their data wasn't very good. Not shocking, that level of poverty that they have, that's going to speak to the fact that their data is going to be a struggle. But at the same time, they owned it, they became part of it, they had conversations that were real. Those are some of the kinds of things. Your plan is going to be a very important place. I think it's this culture and this vision that's really going to make a difference if you're going to have that change. So connecting the dots, a good strategic plan, checking the egos at the door. I think that goes back to that data. If your data is not where it needs to be, that's the book that I recommended as well. It's the basketball coach who's playing a team that 10th player is better than your best player, right? Their center was a 6'11" All-American assistant. Our center was 6'4" tall. Imagine, I mean, right? We knew going in we had no chance until we were told and believed that we didn't have a chance. So check here goes in the door. How can we get this done? Our school has high poverty. We may not ever have 90% or 80%, right? But we want to get as high as we can possibly get. Only the plan, not playing the fun. So that's that. Again, the Title I plan, the comprehensive needs assessment is done so that all the plans are working towards whatever those shortcomings are that you have, and you're collective on it. Having tough conversations, back to that data. How do you improve student outcomes? The two districts that I was in, especially the one that I was superintendent, the other one was too. We were about student outcomes. We wanted to make sure our students had great outcomes for lots of reasons. And certainly because in Ohio, where I was at the high school level, for example, you had to pass the state test, not in combination with your high school grades. On its own, if you didn't pass the test, you graduated. So imagine, you got to tell mom and dad, as a high school principal, I had to make that call. We got the test results early on, seniors. Yeah, your child's not going to walk across the stage because they couldn't pass the math section of the high school graduation test. Not a good call. And then how's your district system? Meeting superintendent, we were full. So that's that vision of having our kids at a level where they're achieving where they should be. So one of the things that we wanted you to hear from us too, so as we've graded strategic plans and school renewal plans, we've really had probably a greater emphasis on compliance over the last number of years. And we really want to take that and help them meet that goal that we set for ourselves too, helping you get that return on your investment. So we're going to look at, are you using things in collaboration? Do your title funds have goals that match your strategic plan, right? Are you spending money differently than you did in the last 5 years when the money that you spent had zero change on student outcomes? Or at least you're making change, right? You're providing that professional learning or whatever it is that you've had. And why don't you spend money when results have not changed? You know, we've seen the other side of that, we've seen districts. Dr. Henry talked about programs, change their math program every 2 to 3 years, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then redo another one, and redo another one with the same results. Because the implementation is right? So we have a resource that's available called the Innovation Station. I'm going to let the veteran, at least because the veteran has done 5 years of work on the Innovation
All the work.
Station.
Talk fast for me.
You can just share from your chair.
Okay, so the purpose of the innovation station is basically to look at these 4 topics that we have here: comprehensive improvement planning, evidence-based interventions, teaching students in poverty, and a resource library with a wealth of information in all categories. This particular portal can assist you regardless as to where you're at with comprehensive needs assessment, where you're at with selecting those evidence-based interventions. As you know, South Carolina has a poverty rate of about 61.1%. So that's a lot of our students.
as most of our students. So there are resources in there that you can use as well. And if you can't find what you need, go to the resource library and choose the assistance area and just do a search and just see what comes up.
Now, can we get to the innovation station, just to state Council website?
Yes, or either you can just type in South Carolina.
Want me to just go?
Google it and I'm just gonna
All right, inside your bag, you have a bookmark with all of these resources. Make sure you use the QR code to open them up. A lot of it we've already talked about through different town halls, our website, and so forth, but there's exemplars up there, innovation station, if you need a waiver, if you want a flexibility guide, all that is there for you. And on the back side, there are federal accountability resources for you as well, the Title I Part A guide, solid monitoring tool, coordinated training, everything you need to know. Questions? Did we cover it all? I know 27 a.m. probably gonna work you later. Okay. That's a little bit. All right, everybody knows it's due April 30th, right? As you roll, right?